Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. And welcome to a very special NAD edition of Industry Insider. My name is Matt Jones, and joining me today, special exclusive host is Carrie Wise, who I have invited to join me on this show. And she has told me that if I do a good job for the rest of the week, or today, she might join me for the rest of the week. So hi, Carrie Wise. Thank you for joining the show today.
Hey, it's good to be back. I mean, this was a show that we kicked off, March or April of last year during the pandemic. And it was so much fun that I decided I was going to retire. You were good on your own, but it is good to be back. I love being on this show, and it's particularly during NADA.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, before we really jump into it, we got to address the elephant in the room. Are we in New Orleans?
We're going to pretend, and hey, I say New Orleans, you say New Orleans, I say New Orleans, but we're going to pretend like we're in New Orleans because I don't know. I'm a little depressed, if I was to be honest with you, because New Orleans is my favorite NADA. It doesn't get any better. First of all, my family roots are from there, right? The food, the people, Bourbon Street, all of that, like you can't get better. So can we just pretend like we're there?
Well, let's continue to pretend. And I'm going to tell you, you know, in order of NADA, which I'm missing out on in person, I went and got myself some Long Beach gumbo over the weekend, and it was good, but it's not as good as the gumbo that you get when you're in NADA in New Orleans. So yes, I am kind of missing it a little bit. But you know what? I want to take a break and tell everybody who this show is brought to them by. And this very special edition of TrueCar NADA Industry Insider is brought to you by TrueCar Military. Now, TrueCar Military is our fastest growing channel. It enables dealers to engage with a large military audience. I'm talking 47 million active duty veterans and their families. And for those who are watching, if you're not familiar with TrueCar, here is just a really quick introduction.
Hey, Matt, it's so awesome. And it mimics as close as we can get to being live and the excitement that we would be feeling if we were on the floor. Matt, did we tell people to share this?
You know what? Everybody who's watching this, please share, because Industry Insider, the idea of the show is the more people who see it, the more people we can influence, the better behaviors that we can create. And these knowledge nuggets are completely free. So hit share. Hit share.
I'm definitely going to be sharing with my group as well.
Same here.
I want to say we're at NADA. It's virtual. Yeah, but I want to encourage you to meet with us at TrueCar at NADA. We are embarking on a really special challenge that we're calling the 21K challenge. As Matt had mentioned, we've been very focused on the military community for a while now, and this really ties into that. What we're going to do is that for everybody who visits us virtually at NADA and sets up a meeting with us, we're going to donate $100 towards a disabled American veterans organization up to $11,000. And then we're going to take another $10,000 and add it to that and split it amongst 4 dealerships who will win $2,500 each towards the charities of their choice. So the $11,000 plus the $10,000 equals $21,000 in total that we're looking to raise, as I mentioned, for disabled American veterans. And we're going to announce the winners of the 4 dealer winners on our show, a special show on Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific. So make sure you set up some time with us, whether you're at NADA or not, and be a part of the 21K challenge. So Matt, let's give a little more background on Industry Insider.
Industry Insider, like you mentioned, Carrie, is something that we launched last year. And the whole idea was last year in the middle of the pandemic, we knew people needed some help. They needed some guidance. And we figured, hey, we got a platform. We can bring on some of the industry's best and brightest minds to talk to the dealer body and share what they are doing in that extreme time to be successful. We've grown a little bit in 2021. We are actually expanding from just dealers and dealer industry to Industry Insider. It's no longer going to be dealer to dealer conversation. We are actually bringing in other thought leaders within our industry. And we are kicking that off with a very, very special guest who I feel like I've known my entire life. And his name, I mean, he's a fantastic guy. I want to do a brief introduction, but Carrie, I think you know him a little bit better. So can I leave it to you or can I jump in?
Yeah. When I first met Steve, and I just learned, I've been saying his name wrong, Steve Roessler, he was unforgettable. I think it just felt like, as you said, that I've known him all my life. It felt like he had worked in our industry all his life, but he's an expert on digital, particularly on texting. And not only that is, he just has energy that just flies through the screen. And you're not going to want to miss this because he brings knowledge, energy, personality, all of that comes together to present brilliance, right? And so you won't meet many people like Steve in the industry, and we're so glad to have him on the show. Steve Roessler, Vice President of DriveCentric.
And I'm in New Orleans, people. Look here. I want to make sure I surprised y'all.
Oh, you got the beads on, bro.
There you go.
You're outshining us. All I have are my 49er beads, which I don't know if are appropriate, but
That counts. That counts.
If I grab a bottle of bourbon, does that count? I mean, I got nothing else,
Hey, I always say New Orleans is one of my favorite cities. I love the most. I have two favorite bars, and one of them is in New Orleans called the Cat's Meow. And it's great. It's high energy. They get people on the stage, and they get karaoke. They get you dancing. I just miss that place.
Yeah, yes. we're missing out this year. We're missing out this year. And before we really jump into this, I wanted to ask you, Steve. I know that you're the VP of DriveCentric, but I know that you also have a very unusual title.
Well, that's right. And actually, Carrie inspired me. I remember at the Denver Association meeting, the Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, Innovative Dealer Summit.
Yeah, I always, Carrie, you're a legend. I mean, my gosh, I will never be close to Carrie White, but Carrie has a great aura on the stage and things of that nature. And her and I were talking in Denver because I just said, I know you're out there speaking all the time. What are you doing? She goes, I'm like the chief evangelist, for the organization. I said, that's what I want to be. So it came to a point. We're a small company, and my title is VP of Sales. And me and my partner just, we're talking one day. He said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you still want to be VP of sales and be in charge of salespeople? I said, not really. I said, I want to go out and inspire. And so I said, I don't want to babysit. I'm not that guy. I like to go out there and enhance change and, put things out there. And so I said, how about Chief Evangelist Officer? So it's just funny because it all started with Carrie. So
I never knew that story. And look Steve, are we creating a career path for people in automotive? Chief Evangelist.
And I don't know if you ever looked it up, but if you go look it up, it's perfect for what you do and what I want to do. So it's got some really good responsibilities, what the Chief Evangelist Officer does. So I was joking around with our CEO, right? I said, hey, can I be a CEO with you?
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
You could have two.
Yeah, he could be the CEO with the big E, and you could be the CEO with the little e, right? But both are really important.
That's right.
So I love this. The Chief Evangelism Officer. We got a bunch of people on the show, and I would like to take just a second to invite them that if you have questions for Matt or Carrie or the Evangelism Officer, please drop them in, and we will get to them as well. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Carrie.
Yes.
So I think in this segment, what we've advertised to our folks who are watching is that we are going to be talking about all things text. And our primary goal here is to talk. Well, actually, you know what? I want to pause. You're fresh off of your NADA workshop. You're like 20 minutes away from that, right?
Oh, it's about 2 hours, but yeah.
It's about 2 hours?
Had some really good feedback. People were asking questions. I mean, one of the segments I talked about was texting, but I talked about video texting, and we talked about live streaming, doing stuff like this with customers. So it was fun. Good event. They were giving me feedback that said we had like 860 customers or dealers on the episode. So I thought that was good, given the circumstances.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, given the in-person events, and you might have 300 or so in a room. So that's awesome. Steve, was this your first time speaking at NADA, or have you spoke before?
It was. I got to tell you, that was probably, and Carrie, maybe you remember the times where I used to beg, just I got something to say. I would like to be on stage, and I was just, between digital dealer, driving sales, doing some 20 groups, Toyota meetings, and obviously the pinnacle is NADA. And so it was great just to have that opportunity to share both obviously U.S. dealerships and international. So it was a great privilege.
Well, congratulations. NADA is huge. And I remember first time I spoke at NADA, it's a major thing. It, like you said, it's like the Super Bowl of auto speaking.
I just missed the in-person. I feel like I'm doing so much in-person, I was robbed.
You were robbed, but next year, you'll be back.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it was great, though. I had fun doing it. And, doing these things virtually, it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And so you got to make the best of it and probably sharpen your presentation skills, even though there's no audience. So it was fun. It was a fun project.
Yes.
Yeah, and talking to yourself sometimes, though, is kind of hard. I mean, I do it, but, we all do it, but it's kind of hard. So not having that audience feedback to be able to look at somebody and see a head nod or a smile or a wave or something, that's a challenge. So, yeah.
No, you just got to pretend on that, no doubt. So I was like, I just felt like the energy was coming through the computer.
Yeah. So I think, you've been known as the kind of the king of texting as it relates to the auto industry. And we're here to really talk about that, right? On, changing the game to change your results, using text, using personalized video in your engagement strategy. So let's talk about that and why you think text and video are so important now.
Well, it's the number one form of communication. I think if we go out there, and what I always preach about is kind of think about modernizing your communication strategy. I think we all have to do that as salespeople anyway. I mean, I still remember back in the day where I was faxing proposals to dealerships, right? I mean, just kind of think about that, or not to dealerships, but in a whole nother life, I was in hospitals and stuff like that. But I mean, I was faxing. I mean, we had pagers. I mean, just kind of think about that, right? It's just how much things have evolved. And so, so today, like what I do every day in sales is my number one form of communication with any dealership is texting. And then I shoot personalized video, and I'll do obviously Zoom meetings. Email is just one of those things. You take a look at all the blockers we have out there with spam. And, if you put in pictures, put in hyperlinks, go Google what you shouldn't put in your subject line. You put numbers and symbols, that'll flag it and and they won't get it, or they can't find it. And then with phone, just kind of think technology is actually taking the phone away from dealerships. I mean, think about this. You can go on your phone right now, go to your phone settings, and you are not a known entity on your phone. It'll go right to voicemail. So now technology is fighting us and getting customers on the phone. And we obviously just got over the election. Everybody was getting badgered by the phone. If you didn't go out there and change your settings, you're not going to get anybody picking up the phone. So how do people communicate? It's going to be text. It's the number one form of communication. The number one buyer, you guys know this is TrueCar, is who? The millennials and Gen Zs. My daughter's upstairs right now. We had a bunch of snow. I had to text her and say, take care of the dog while I'm doing my interview, right? I can't do that. She's got her earbuds in, right? So texting is just by far what everybody is communicating with. And at the dealership level, what they have to realize is if I'm on the phone with a customer, I have to tell you, hey, I got to have an opt-in. Just reply back yes. And that's where it all starts.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here, though, because for those who don't know, I spent 1 million years at the car dealership. Mm-hmm. And if you worked at a car dealership for more than 10, it literally feels like 1 million years. So I'm like 1 million years old. Right? Okay, and I know a lot of the guys and gals who still work there, they still swear by phone, right? They say, that engagement comes from the phone call. And obviously we're trying to grab that. So what would you say to somebody who says, the phone is still the holy grail?
Well, I would tell them that they're wrong. I think the end goal is to get the customer on the phone today. We have to, the texting to earn the right to get the customer on the phone. I was on the phone with a dealer, what was it, last week? I mean, I'm on the phone with dealers all the time, right? And somebody says, if a dealer tells me my guys and gals make 100 phone calls a day and 50 emails a day, I would say, what's your turnover rate? Because I wouldn't work there. I just wouldn't do it. If we go back to what I was saying earlier about the fax machine, you have a better chance of delivering a fax now than you do an email. Delivery rate, So, yeah. But I think texting, you take the conversation. One of the projects I'm working on for Digital Dealer now, you guys will love this, is when you're texting, and a lot of dealerships struggle with this because they are so used to people wanting to get on the phone. And I'm all a fan of getting the person on the phone, so I don't want anybody to think that. What I'm trying to do, though, is at what point of the texting dialogue is the conversation going south to where you have to get that customer on the phone so you don't miscommunicate? Does that make sense?
No, it does. It does. And I think, Carrie and I have spoken in the past. You said something that really jumps out is using text as like maybe the springboard to get to the phone call, right?
Correct.
To earn your right to talk to them.
Earning the right. And so when we think about that, it's like it's a quicker engagement, right? But what other benefits would somebody like, if you're trying to sell me or sell somebody who's traditionally on the phone or email, because we know that you run a CRM, there's a lot of people who are still just married to that. How can we start encouraging them? Can you think of any stat or factoids about, quicker engagement?
Well, yeah, you take a look at the customer segment. I actually talked about this in the presentation. I broke it down by your customer segments. So if you look at 75% of the millennials and Gen Zs text over phone calls. They're just not going to pick up the phone. They're not going to even listen to voicemail. And it goes down, like my generation, I don't know how old everybody else is, but my generation is like 50% text. And then, my mom, for example, who's 80 years old, she's like that 25% range texting. So the idea is everybody texts. It's just a matter of what level. My mom sends me GIFs. GIFs. You say GIFs, I say GIFs. Conversation starter.
I thought you were talking about peanut butter.
Yeah. That's a GIF in itself right there. You got GIF and GIF, There's a war going on that. But I'm telling you, I say GIF, but it's kind of my tactic. But at the end of the day, if we just go out there and say what's productive, can you imagine making all those dials where I could take that same text and I could send that same text out probably in less than 10 minutes to maybe 30 people. It's just a copy and paste. And I just say, hey, well, how are you doing today? Copy and paste that and send that out to everybody and see who bites. It's very simple to get that engagement. And then as you start the conversation via text, just say, hey, I had some questions. Do you have a second?
So let's talk about that in terms of challenges that dealers face, because as you mentioned, Matt, and we've seen it, that there sometimes can be resistance, right? I'd rather speak to somebody. It's just easier. What kind of, mistakes do you see that a salesperson makes that might prevent them from getting that engagement that they're looking for over text?
Well, I guess it just depends. First of all, the biggest confusion is the opt-in. Right. I got to get the opt-in, to make sure that we can text back and forth. Now, if I get a customer on the phone and they didn't text me, I would be asking the customer, hey, I sent you an opt-in. Are you a texter? And I say, yeah, I did. Okay, well, just reply back, yes. We can do a lot of this easier over the phone or via text, and you'll see that. We've seen in our CRM where there's like 44 texts and 2 phone calls and the deal's done in 3 days.
Yeah.
So if you go out there and think about the strategy, I just don't have to be on the phone. We can do so much more via text. And then if I was in person with somebody at the dealership and somebody's right there, I would opt in with the customer right there and say, hey, I know you're going to make a decision and you're going to review the numbers and you're going to walk out of here, but are you a texter? Because I'd like to follow up with you via text. Just, right now, anytime we are literally talking to people, we have to ask, are you a texter? And if they say no, number one, that's what we should realize. Nobody wants to be badgered on the phone, and yet nobody wants to be badgered via text. If 90% of customers don't trust our industry, we have to earn the right then to get them to trust us. So a customer says, no, it's not. The game is not over to get that customer re-opted in. We just got to say re-opt in, hit yes or start. Sometimes we got to build that trust up to get that customer re-engaged with us via text. So I think we just got to do a better job explaining to the customer what our industry needs to do because of some of these laws out there on texting. And that's all we have to do is educate. It's no difference. Like right now, some people want paperless systems, but the law says we need 4 wet signatures.
Right.
It's no different. We just got to tell the customer what is going to happen, and they'll understand.
So, you said something I really liked, because you're talking about conversation and conversation inside and outside of text. But what I'm hearing is you're asking the customer, you're having a conversation, which is like appropriate for all of us rapport builders, all of us people who, and I think one of the roadblocks that we're seeing is that people feel like it's either text or nothing. But the way that you're describing it is like, hey, if you've got them in person and you're person to person, hey, are you a texter? That's a human conversation. You got them on the phone. Can you text? Opt in. And I don't know that everybody's looking at it that. I mean, I'm hearing people who don't seem to be looking at it that way. They seem to just say like, this is my only avenue of conversation. So what you're still talking about is grasping a real conversation. So that hasn't changed. But what you're talking about is segueing it into a method that might be a little bit more acceptable or a little bit more widely adopted based on, today. Am I hearing it right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I may text you and just say, hey, watch my video, Matt.
Right.
I mean, it's like I can do a better job maybe illustrating and understanding the proposal. Maybe I'm going to send you over a proposal and go through the numbers. Maybe I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to send you a video of the car. Take a look at it. And I'll send you a video of the car. I'm going to leverage texting to point you into what is going to happen. That's the way I leverage texting. In like anytime I send a proposal out, I'm like, proposal sent. Boom. They know what's going to be coming because what? Carrie probably gets 1,000 emails a day because she's so popular. So she's going to have to go look for it. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to be at the top. It's going to say Steve Roessler, sign here, know?
Yes.
So I'm just telling the customer through text what is expected and what they'd be looking out for. It's just like, I'm using it as my pointer of my conversation. Do you have 5 minutes? Let's get on the phone.
Well, and you bring up such an important point in terms of how many emails I have versus how many text messages, right? And I mean, we've all been in presentations. I've done it in presentation rooms, like everyone pull up their phone, right? How many unread emails do you have? How many unread text messages? Voicemails, right? I mean, we're in a place now where I don't always listen to voicemails. I hate to admit that, but if I see my dad leave me a voicemail, I love that man, right? Love that man. But if I see him leave me a voicemail, I won't even listen to it.
No.
I'll read the transcription of the voicemail, or I'll just call him back.
Right.
Right. And so it's a crazy world where things are different now in terms of how we engage with these kind of traditional ways of communicating.
Well, right. And you hit the nail on the head because this is kind of funny. So I don't know if you guys are on Clubhouse or not, but we had a bunch of dealers. Okay. So here's a good it was a small segment, but a small study. But we had a whole bunch of dealers in the Clubhouse room, right? So we were asking dealers, it was vendors and dealer conversation. I said, how many of you dealers listen to your voicemail? Not one of them said they do. So do we expect our customers to listen to voicemail? I don't get it. They have the same problem you do, Mr. Dealer. So, but yeah, we're going to leave a message and think they're going to read the transcription. Maybe back in the day when transcription was big, but not
right. Yeah. And even then you're kind of glossing over it, right? You're really not. I gloss over it, kind of get a couple keywords, and then I might call you back only if I know you. I mean, that's the reality. If I don't know you, you're not even getting an answer at all.
And that magic is like when you send somebody a text, it's a push, right? They're not necessarily, they don't have to really choose. It shows up, hey, you've got in contact with them, as opposed to making them jump over a hurdle, which is drive into voicemail or dive into their email. It's a push notification. As soon as they see it on their phone, Steve, you have a question. Can I throw it at you?
Oh yeah, go. I didn't know. I'm like, what's going on?
I'm sorry. I guess so one of our live viewers on Facebook asks, if a customer is already opted into text, what are some good questions a dealer can ask in order to get the combo going?
First of all, I always make it personal. I would never make it about the car. One of my favorite rules I love to teach, one of my favorite movies was Hoosiers, Gene Hackman movie where he's coaching basketball. And one of the things I always love to do, even when I'm texting, and my dealers watching this who I communicate with, then also I'm giving out my trade secrets. But I do a rule of 3. So meaning like like what they say in the movie Hoosiers is pass the ball 3 times before you shoot it. So what I'm saying is I want 3 passes of conversation before I ask for what I need.
I see.
I would be looking to say, like, to a customer, maybe, every situation's a bit different, but I would, you just say something like, well, how's your day going? Or did you watch the Blues game last night? How was the NADA show? What was your thought? And it just to get the conversation going and warmed up. And I think, there's a lot of good dating apps, right? And I mean, I don't know, Matt, I actually listened to a couple of ladies talking about Bumble. Okay.
Really? What is that?
Okay. I've never heard of Bumble.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, and this is true because I was in Orlando. I was presenting on engagement strategies, but it's a female controlled dating app where the woman initiates the conversation. Okay. And the man has 24 hours to reply, otherwise they vaporize.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Okay. But here's the thing though, and I've got, we got some girls at work that are on the site, and they'll ever say, in this app Bumble or probably any of these other apps, is you don't just go out there and say, you want to go out to dinner?
Right.
You want to go out to dinner? Right. They're going to comment about their dog that's in the picture on their dating app, or again, I don't know. My wife's in the other room, so she's probably like, "What are you doing on Bumble?"
Yeah, you act like you don't know this.
Sorry, honey, I was doing research. But no, seriously, but they're having a conversation to make sure they're vibing, right? That's the word you get to use, they're vibing, before they go out and you ask them on the date. So that's what I would recommend, is try to do a warm-up conversation before you ask for what you want to do.
And that's a good point, because I think, in our business, things can be very transactional in nature, right? And it's all about that close, like closing that customer. And so when you think about it, you can lose patience and kind of jump straight to the the meat of the conversation in terms of the transaction without actually building any kind of rapport. That's a really good point. I think, what are your thoughts in terms of customers asking for information? They want the price or they want payments and things like that over text. Should the mindset of the dealer think of those answering those questions differently via text versus how they might do it on the phone?
I think I look at it as, like, I know dealerships are scared to give out numbers via text or whatever, because they're going to go to another dealership. And I'll just tell you, in talking to customers, if you don't give it to me, then I'm going to go somewhere else anyway.
You're saying it's like a guaranteed at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're going to look worse from a customer's experience. There's you're going to be a little shady because you want me to come in the store to get the numbers or to get the trade. I mean, there's so much power at the fingertips. And I think that's really, Carrie, what is really the problem is dealerships are losing control of the deal. And in my opinion, they're not losing control of the deal. They're giving the customer more power. And if you shift the power to the customer, I mean, like all these things with, Vroom and Carvana, I know everybody's worried about them, but they're adding more gross to their bottom line because of the better car buying experience. And I think if we take that lesson and apply it to this, we're being transparent, say we can do this all virtually just like those guys. I am Vroom. I am Carvana. If you don't want to come to the store, you don't have to. The good news is you can test drive with us. You don't have to go through the hassle of returning the car. I think that's a huge benefit. But are we doing that? No. Maybe they are. I mean, it's few and far between. I think more of us are all worried about it, but it's like, hey, we have the same process they do, but you can come in and test drive. Isn't that the fun part of buying a car?
Mm-hmm.
We had gone through a little bit of data earlier last year in aggregate, and we saw that when people in text conversations, like, Steve, you're buying a car from me. If you ask me a question about a price, at least in text, it wasn't necessarily a negotiation tactic. It was more of a confirmation tactic via text. It's like, what's the price? It's 35,000, blah, 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 blah. And we saw in aggregate that when people did address those, quite often the conversation continued. You could just see that there was more, back and forth, saying, but when we saw the indication of like a dollar amount that went unaddressed, those conversation durations tended to be smaller. So it really backs up what you say. Is like, if somebody wants that information, probably just put it in front of them. I want to shout out Erica, who said she met her husband on Bumble.
Nice. Look at that, Erica.
Hey, see you there.
Like LoCan co-founder, didn't even know that.
I do want to say one thing though, because I want to make sure I talk about this, because we are talking about texting, but we're talking about numbers. One of the things that I believe that no matter what you are in sales is you have something the customer wants, right? And even when I'm talking to a dealer, just like you guys are talking to dealers about something they want, I think there are reasons to have a conversation. And if I say, hey, I've got the numbers, I'd like to review them with you. Do you have a second? And I would do that via text. And if they say yes, then I get them on the phone and I would text over the proposal and I'd review the numbers while I'm on speakerphone. Because that right there, I'd like to go through the numbers so there's no misinterpretation. And so like even at our company, we never, ever, 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 ever just send numbers blindly without getting that customer potentially on the phone. Now, if the customer says, hey, you got to make a decision, right? Some customer, just send me the numbers. Okay, I just want to make sure you understand them. If you got questions, I'd like to talk you through it. And then in that case, you would have to go ahead and send numbers. But it just depends on how many things are in the proposal and things like that. Some of those can be confusing, and you're just there to discuss the options.
Well, you know what? That's a super good call out, because, I'm out here in California, and Carrie and I both live in California. And we're both in Southern California. Her tax rate is dramatically different than mine. So because of that, a lot of the dealerships will say your selling price is, the price of your car is $35,000, but that's not the entirety of the story. You need to know where I live in order to give me an accurate payment, if that's what I'm looking for, payment or something like that. So the way that you've presented that, I think, is fantastic. I have the numbers. I want to go over them with you. Can we hop on a phone call? And then just texting them over as a confirmation, not just because you're covering yourself and getting more rapport, but you're giving context to what you're being offered. Right. And I really like that.
Yeah. You're giving a reason to get on the phone, and that's what, nobody just wants to pick up the phone blindly. Everybody is busy. Carrie's busy. I mean, I bet you if I call Carrie, she won't answer my phone call. I just know she's busy. So I'm going to say, Carrie, you got 5 minutes? I got to, it's true.
That's it. And it does work. We have communicated like that. Yeah. I think one of the things I've noticed about you, just even in texting with you, just like personally, or, in terms of business, like you're very responsive too. And I want to talk about that in terms of time, because the text customer versus somebody on email or phone, like what are their expectations in terms of how fast you get back to them or not?
Well, I mean, again, everybody's on their phone. So I just think with all the tools in place, like in our CRM, you're getting push notifications when you're getting a text. So yeah, I mean, the rule of thumb, and it's all on Google on this, but the average text is read within 3 minutes and replied to in 90 seconds. I'll take those odds every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's why I love to sell, because you listen to the data and use it. So when I get up in the morning, I'm not kidding you. Like I have this one text, and I'll share with you what I use. And there's so many fun little apps that add feeling to it. And Carrie, you probably have seen this, but I use this app called Sticky. So I don't have to say anything in the morning. I'm trying to find it. I got so many pictures in here. Here you
go. You said, okay.
Yeah. So what I do is first thing in the morning, I get up and I send this text. Now it doesn't look like that, but all right. Now I don't have to say anything. All right. I don't have to say anything. I just take that and I send that out. And it's just a great tool. If I really need somebody on the phone, I may send this. You'll love this one, Carrie.
Let me see that. Look at that. What does that say? This is crazy. What is that?
Here's my sad day. So call me maybe.
I mean, I've got all these other ones that are just kind of fun. I mean, if I call you, Carrie, and you're in a meeting and you say, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. You want to see what my template is back to you? I promise you, it'll be this. You're going to say, I'm going to call you back in 5 minutes. I respond back with this.
Promise. That's good.
So, I use these and I have like a whole library of picture templates. And the reason why I love that app, and you can save these on your phone and you can upload them as an attachment in your CRM. So the reason why I do that is I'm prepared. I basically got my photo templates, right? Or memes, that I could send back. And what I'm doing is I'm keeping my face in front of Carrie. I'm keeping my face in front of Matt, keeping it, whatever dealer. I want that they're going to buy from me and they're going to know who I am. They're going to say, oh, you're the spiky hair guy. So anyway, but the responsiveness, I practice what I preach.
Well, it feels, though, using the sticky app and using those images like that, it feels personalized, but you've operationalized it so that it's not like you're customizing every single response, which is what I really like about that. But I have a question for you in terms of a dealer salesperson interacting with the customer. Do you think it's appropriate to use kind of those funny images like that, or use kind of, emoticons and kind of funny things like that, LOL, and like, is it okay to be casual in your opinion?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're selling cars.
Let your hair down.
Okay, look, I came from the medical industry. Okay. I was in the medical industry 16 years. And people say, well, my neurosurgeon won't talk like that. Bull. You know what they're doing when they're operating on you? They're listening to Poison, Motley Crue, and everything else when you're getting cut on. I've been there. All right. They put on the same pair of pants we all do. All right. It's just a nicer pair of pants. Right. But at the end of the day, 1 billion GIFs are done daily, according to Forbes. All right. So to sit there and say that you're going to offend somebody, and GIFs, for example, is PG-13. Now, if you do pictures like that, again, you give somebody control like that. Can they get out of hand? They can, but then they shouldn't be in sales. And you're going to, But at the end of the day, and I don't know, Carrie, if you go into my stories, but I literally had my what do you call it? I had a filling I had to do at the dentist, right? And here, I'm going to see if I can find it. Okay. But I took a picture of it. I put it on social media and I did a reverse. I did it on my story. Let me see here. But it was classic because everybody was just raving about it. Oh, here it is right here.
Okay. What is it? I'd rather be buying a car. That is so good. Someone needs to use it as their commercial or something.
Right. But it's a reversal. Here I am. I'm at the dentist. You know what they say? A customer would rather be at the dentist or, they wouldn't want to be buying a car. They'd rather go to the dentist. And here I'm saying reverse. All right.
I'd rather be buying a car.
I'd rather be buying a car. Okay. So, but that's we're in a fun industry, but buying a car should be fun.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. I love it because I think it's easy to focus on the negativity and responding to the negativity. And you just flipped it right there. Right. Exactly. Like, I'd rather be buying a car than being at the dentist.
Steve, you just said it should be fun. And we talked about earlier, going through some aggregate conversations. We've seen some text conversations where it's professionalized to the max. You'd think that it was neurosurgeons talking to neurosurgeons, talking to neurosurgeons, talking to astrophysicists, right? And that's great. That's cool. We all want to have like a modicum of professionalism. But what you said is really important. This should be a fun experience, and text is the land of fun, as far as communication channels. It's not necessarily quite as structured. It's not necessarily quite as templated as email, right? So I really, really like those pictures that you used. What was that app called again?
Well, it's called Sticky, but I've tried to share that app. There's other products that do the same thing. I think Sticky was maybe taken down. I can still use it, but there's other apps that do it.
All right.
The other thing too, that, I study the customer. So, again, I'm new in the auto industry. So, it took me a while to connect in automotive, coming from the medical industry for so long. Because I never sold a car. And here I am, I'm going out there and I'm talking to salespeople. I'm like, you've never been in my shoes. I'm like, well, sell the CRM, will you?
Thank you. Amen.
I was like, it's a long buying cycle. So you start taking a look, and you guys have the data. The average customer is probably buying a car 80% of the time in 14 days. To me, that's shooting fish in a barrel. All right. If I heard that with CRM, but
right.
But, if you just kind of think it's, man, I got to build a relationship with that. And I want to if I know 90% of customers don't trust us, that's an opportunity. I don't look at that as I'm scared to death. Oh my God, I got that. I look at it as an opportunity because I'm not in that 90%. I'm the 10%. And if I go in there and I'm going to say, I'm going to give this customer a great buying experience, you look at what Ollie's doing or some of these really good salespeople, they build an experience. They don't want to go to those other dealerships. They're buying from him. Can you imagine if we had a whole bunch of Ollie's around there?
Right.
Well, yeah. And what I like about what you preach and what you evangelize is that, it comes down to being yourself, to bringing yourself to these conversations, because I've worked in the industry for 20 years. And, how many call guides have we seen and talk tracks and email guides and email script. Here's the best way of overcoming this objection. And those are good. You need some type of guidelines.
Right.
But there also needs to be that organic flexibility where you bring your personality to the table, particularly when it comes to texting, right? There's no copying and pasting from a guide or a script.
Well, right. And here, I'll tell you, let me go back to 6 years ago when I got an automotive. Okay. You're talking to a guy, I love CRM. If you ever ask me, the only reason why I got an automotive was CRM, but I never had business rules ever in my entire life. So here I am getting in the automotive industry and we had to set up business rules for a store. I'm like, what's a business rule? They go, well, when you get an internet lead, you got to tell the salesperson to follow up. I go, they're getting a lead and you got to tell them to follow up. It just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, as a sales guy. Okay. It just doesn't make sense. But just as I got into the auto industry and I realized why I believe we created a lot of robots. Here's this template, fire this template, and then all of a sudden, right. I don't have to think anymore. I'm just fire this template, fire that. This day and age, we almost got to I'm going to do my Yoda. You must unlearn what you have learned. All right. So
that's going to be on your highlight video, by the way, for the show. Highlight video.
But just talk to the customer. I don't need a template.
Right.
Really? You're going to send me this big old 5 paragraphs why buy from here? Let me tell you as a consumer, I don't care. Okay. My wife, we just bought a Nissan Rogue about a little over a year ago. She went, she has a bad hip and stuff. So she went to go test drive a bunch of cars. She liked the Nissan Rogue. I said, great. I said, do me a favor. Go to 2 or 3 dealerships. We're going to buy from the best salesperson. You know who the best salesperson was? A rookie. Didn't know anything about the car. But you know what he did? He responded to every question she had. And if he didn't know the answer, he said it. And we wound up buying the car from this guy. And he wound up being there maybe a month and a half.
Wow.
It just goes to show, as long as we're responsive, again, that was it's a one customer segment. But I think that's what it's come down to. I don't need you to know anything about the car. But just be responsive, talk to me, Hey, there's a thing called Google. You want to know how many miles it is? I think it's right here on the windshield. Yeah.
It's so funny that you say that, Steve, because at least in my circles when I was selling, it was always the new guy, the green pea. It was like the luck of the green pea, they would call it, right? When I first started selling cars, my very first month, I was the number one guy.
Yeah.
On my 9th month, I wasn't the number one guy anymore because, I had stopped being that new kid that you had talked about, being that person I got templated, right?
You were painted.
Templated. I like the templated.
I was templated. I stopped being a human and I stopped being, let me just, so I really love that. So, okay. All right. We're going to shift gears for a second. Spending all this time talking about text, which I love. Let's talk about video. Is that cool with everybody on the call?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
All right. So, you're all about it. Tell me why I should be using video in my conversation strategy if I'm a relatively new BDC or salesperson at a store.
It doesn't even matter if you're that. It's just if you're in sales, you need to be doing video. I don't care who you work for. Video is the bridging the gap. The only reason why I joined automotive industry was literally because of video. That is a true story. The founder of the company pulled me up, said, hey, man, I know you love CRM. I want you to take a look at us. And it was the first CRM built with video. I was like, dude, I could totally sell this in the medical industry. I saw the vision, of what video is doing 6 years ago. And I never even thought about sending videos from the sales side. But whether you're a vendor, to whatever business you're in, but obviously we're in automotive, but I'm always big about sending video because I don't have to do a template. And if you think about it, go look at the ways we communicate. And I mean, it's all over. It's in Sales 101. 7% of what we say is on words on paper. And one of the things, like I know we talk about texting, but I'll just go back to this real quick, is what I want to do is a tone check exercise. So what I mean by that is, and Carrie and Matt, let me ask you, have you ever read, and I know Matt, and Carrie, you're both married, obviously, but have you ever read a conversation from your spouse where you're going back and forth, rapid fire via text, and you're just like, is he or she mad?
Yes. Yeah. Or why are they using all caps?
Yeah. What's up with that? And I'll tell you, and this is how psychotic maybe I am. But if Carrie, if you text me, or now Matt, that I'm talking to you more, right? Yeah. When I'm reading a text, I hear Matt in my head.
Yeah.
Okay, Carrie, I hear Carrie in my head. So now in my CEO, believe me, I hear my CEO in my head. All right. And I know how he talks. But anyway, he's a good guy. But I say that on record here. But the thing is with texting, if I go out there and I'm doing a tone check all the way through the conversation, that's 7%. Now you add the phone conversation, the tonality of that's why managers like, get them on the phone, get them on the phone.
Yeah.
37% on how we communicate is on tonality and then words. So now we're communicating at 45%. 55% is body language. That's why we do so well selling the cars when they come in the showroom. So video encompasses 100% of all that. You're not going to miscommunicate. You're going to, they're going to see you. They're going to size you up. They're going to know if they want to work with you. They're going to know who you are when they come in. So get rid of my skate alerts. All right. I mean, if I got to hear about skate alerts, oh my gosh, if I owned a dealership, did they ask for you? Did they ask for you? Okay, it's not yours. Sorry. I'm sorry. I just we're in 2021. I mean, get rid of the freaking term skate alert. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. You took me back with that skate alert. Boy.
I like that. But that's what video is going to do. It's going to humanize the car buying experience. It's going to know who you are. It's an advantage. Customers want it. In that clubhouse, we were talking. What was really great was you get to interview customers, right? Customers come into these automotive clubhouse rooms, and they're like, "I'm just coming in. I'm just taking a look around." So we start interviewing them, right? Hey, did you buy a car recently? What's your recent car buying experience? And she goes, "Well," and it's so funny because we talk about that perfect lead. Right. This is what's so funny. And this was a great clubhouse exercise. So here we are, we're talking to this girl. Her name was Sarah. Okay. I still remember her name. She's got 3 kids, very busy. She's working. Her husband's working. Her husband and her both tall. They need a car that, extra leg room and stuff like that. They weren't big on leasing a car. Leasing doesn't make a lot of sense. You're getting all this information. And you know what? Everybody in Clubhouse said, man, I would love to work with you. You know what I said to everybody? Just talk to your customers then, will you? You'll find all this out.
Yeah, there's lots of Sarahs out there.
I know. Right. They're all there.
Yes.
I mean, you talk about subprime, customers and things like that. You don't know how they could have been affected. What caused them to be subprime and things like that. But they come out of that. And I don't know. I guess that's why I just say is if we just talk to the customers and get them on, but that's what video is doing is it's embracing literally 100% of the communications where I was kind of going.
So let's give some tips in terms of video. So if I was to get started today, I'm a salesperson. Where do I start in terms of video? Where do I use it? And then give me some tips on a good video.
Well, the very first thing that I would challenge is before you send that email, make it a video. I mean, period. That's where you start. Now, people are going to say, I got to get comfortable on video. So that's what you got to talk about is, hey, I got to get comfortable on video. And I tell every salesperson, if you're going to tell me you're not comfortable being on camera, well, you're not comfortable being in person either. Say, oh, I don't look good today. Well, you don't look better in person either is what I have to say. All right. So that's my favorite line. I think everybody comments on that. If you're watching this for the second time, you know what I'm talking about. But, I have bad hair days. I get more engagement now when I wear a hat on Saturdays and Sundays. People are like, I can't believe you're wearing a hat, Steve, with that head of hair. But at the end of the day, you got to get comfortable with video. If it was me and I'm starting at a dealership, I would go in and get my leads that I'm doing. I would do 100% every introduction. I would keep every video less than 30 seconds. I'd make sure I say the customer's name at the beginning and at the end and have a call to action item in the video. And then what I would do is like I told you, I would send a text message. Hopefully I'm opted in with that customer. I'd say, did you get the video? Now I'm showing the truck. I would, show a truck or a car, whatever it may be. And I would do a video walk around. And sometimes if you're not comfortable on video, make the car the star. That's what everybody says. You don't have to be on video. Just show the car. That's what the customer wants to see. That may be a good baby step into video. If it was me, the other thing too is maybe you're a little worried about what to say about the car. Do birthday videos, do anniversary videos. You don't have to know anything about the car. Just say thank you and to the customer, and see if they get engagement, and just start a dialogue. Start a conversation. You never know if they have kids that are looking for a car. You don't know. It's just to start that rule of three, as I always say. If you can get a dialogue, we're always looking for customers to be talking. Never know what nugget you may find when you start a conversation.
I love that, because what you just said is like, it's not just pre-transaction, it's post-transaction. Use video for the birthday call, the anniversary, to keep that person engaged with you. I really love that. But what I want to repeat what you said also, because I think it bears repeating. 30 seconds, customer's name. Hi, Carrie. Carrie, I look forward to seeing you or talking to you again. I think that is a critical call out. I'm really glad that you said that, as far as time and using the consumer's voice. Or the consumer's voice.
People like to hear their name. You know what I mean? Yeah. Therefore, it is personal. Right. The other thing too is just, there are technologies out there along with ours that does texting of video. I think it is important to know that when you do text a video to a customer, and I preached about this on the session I was on earlier, but it's important to know that if you are not a known entity on that consumer's phone, it is going to be a hyperlink. Okay. So if I'm not on your phone, Matt, and I send you a YouTube video, it's going to show HTTP, YouTube, blah, 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 blah. So, that to me is one of the things that's an opportunity, to make sure you tell the customer, hey, I'm sending you this video. It's not some spammy video. I'm showing the car, but hopefully you can get that customer to put your name on their phone. Right. Because if you communicate with video, then it shows up like it would if we're all friends.
Good point.
No, that makes sense. So we are going to get to the part of the show that I like. Oh, Carrie, you're not aware of this. I just created this yesterday. I haven't told anybody about this. Okay. So there's a new section of the show called What Can I Do? Right? It's called What Can I Do? And I'm going to put this in your hands, Steve. I know. I like this.
Does Steve have a lifeline he can draw on?
What can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do?
If you and I were talking at a dealership right now, and this is going to be like the last question before we wrap up, and you're telling me, okay, I'm not really invested in text as a store. I'm not really invested in video as a store. What can I do right now to get on the path?
Well, if I was starting off, let's just take one segment at a time, text messaging. I would make sure I educate everybody. I remember when I first got in automotive, the mindset of the salesperson, you got to educate salespeople, number one.
Okay.
I think we just got to say, like, look, everybody in here is a texter. Did anybody go to a Super Bowl party due to a mass email? All right. So it wasn't that. Okay. No. Probably, hey, you want to come to my house? You can just start a text thread, or maybe it was on Facebook, whatever. So it's not, it's almost like insane not to be thinking that texting is not overstepping your boundaries. When I got into this, people were thinking texting's a little too personal. I don't know about that. I don't think that's the way it is today, but I think you just got to encourage, like, why didn't you text this customer? At least opt in with them, give them the reason to tell you no. So I would just always make sure if I have a cell phone number, I'm opting in with every customer. That's the first thing I would measure. When it came to like doing video, I would just challenge everybody, every like internet lead, I would make sure they got a video if I was working on the BDC side. Now, if a customer came in my store and didn't buy a car, there would be two ways I'd be going about it. I'd be doing a confirm appointment video for every customer we had an appointment with. I would do a confirmation appointment video because statistically that is helping customers show up to the store. If a customer left and didn't buy a car, I'd be sending a thank you video for the opportunity with the car behind me and inviting them right back in, like, hey, I'm going to save the car as much as I can, but I want to make sure you know your business is important to me. I'm here to help you any way, shape, or form I can. So, I mean, again, there's a couple of little segments there. Every store is a little bit different, But I mean, the one thing I would measure at the end of every month is my text to email ratio. So if I'm going back and I'm going to implement it, how do I measure what I preach? And what I always take a look at is a benchmark of a text email ratio of a minimum of 1-to-1. Meaning if I send out 5,000 emails a month, I want a minimum of 5,000 texts. Now, if you start there, you're going to have 10,000 texts, 15,000 texts, and so you're going to get into the 3-to-1. Texting is number one form of communication. If we just reply back and forth, you're going to be at 15,000 before you know it.
Good point. Good point.
I love both of those because your kickoff with text and video, they don't cost anything. They're lifts, but they're very light lifts, and they certainly make sense. And one of the great things about the automotive industry is that there's an opportunity for a salesperson to really stand out from the pack, because what you just said is not going to be adopted by everybody, although everybody can do it. So the person who does adopt it is going to stand out. Like, I think back in the day, somebody interviewed Kobe and said, "Aren't you scared of giving out all your tricks and tips?" He's like, "No, because ain't everybody going to do it." Right? And it's the same thing. Yeah. If you do it, you're going to stand out. Yeah.
I've got a nice little analogy. I love analogies. You're going to hear I'm the king of analogies. And some of my analogies don't make sense, but this is a good one. All right. Any of the dealers that are listening, how would you like it if I came in unannounced and visited your dealership? And I come to the front desk, I say, "Hey, is Bob available?" I'm going to get every excuse in the book. He's selling a car. He's out to lunch. He's in a meeting. I mean, I have a laundry list of all the excuses on why dealerships won't see me on a cold call, right? It's cold call. That's a cold call, in the store. Well, you're cold calling blindly now to a customer, and that is just downright rude in 2021 to call somebody on your time versus my time. It's much different. And if you think of it from that analogy, am I calling you on your time or my time? And all of a sudden, man, you're rude.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's, it's almost like a phone call is an appointment.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. And you got to put yourself in the shoes of the customer to kind of really understand that and realize that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, put yourself in their shoes. Think of yourself as a consumer and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable to you. That's a really good analogy, though.
Yeah, you have boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be working and we're going to be partners, or I'm going to be buying a car from you, just respect me, respect my boundaries, respect that I'm busy. And the days of just badgering people, I'm not a big fan of it. If the dealers that know me, if they say, "Hey man, I'm not in the market for 6 months," I'll call you in 4.
Right.
And I don't bother for 4 months, you know what I mean? It's like, but then they say, "Well, I bought so," well, then I must have really screwed up the original deal. But I mean, ownership to that, because they lied to me and then they didn't think about me. So I really did a poor job as a salesperson. But at the end of the day, I'm all about the customer's experience. And if you go out there and look at that customer segment, and Carrie, I'm sure you go out there and study this all the time. Yeah. But if you study what Gen Zs on the phone, I mean, it's amazing when you go out there and read some of the research papers on getting a Gen Z on the phone. They panic. They have anxiety. They don't think on their feet very well. They want to process, a conversation via text. Yeah. And I never thought I would ever see the day where people can't talk to one another, but that's what we're talking about, And if we're going to be selling cars to those people, we got to listen to what their issues are and, be better. And
definitely. It's so important. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap. We got so many nuggets in this presentation or in this session. And I know people who were at your NADA session got a lot of nuggets as well. So how can people reach out to you, contact you, follow you? Where can you be found, Steve?
Well, you could text me.
Whoa.
Well, if you like me, you're going to text me. All right. If you want to see one of my stickies, you can text me at 314-803-4334. Or you can follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and DM me that way. Those are the easiest way. I'm not even going to give you my email.
And you're in Clubhouse now too. So that's
I'm in Clubhouse. Yeah, we're doing some moderation on BDC engagement strategies, doing some challenges on Wednesdays. around 4:30 to 7. Yeah, it's a fun app for Apple users. Sorry, Android.
Sorry, though maybe next time. But yes, no. So check Steve out. Oh man, Matt. So Steve, thank you so much. Congratulations on NADA. I'm sure you'll be back in person next year. I want to see you. Can't wait to see you in person.
I know. I miss everybody.
I do too.
I think with Clubhouse, everybody, there's going to be probably when everybody does get together, it's just going to be a whole new gang. You know?
Yes.
It's going to be fun. I mean,
it's true.
I can't imagine not hugging people though. You know, like I want to hug you, Carrie. I don't know how I'm going to do without hugging you. If I got to elbow you.
Yeah, we can put a bubble around ourselves or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Well, thank you, Steve. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for everything.
All right, guys. Take care.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Wow. Well, that was great. It was so fun to be back, Matt. And especially as part of NADA, I do want to make sure we encourage everybody to reach out to us at NADA, virtual NADA. Matt, I don't have the link where they can set up. There you go. TrueCar.com/NADA 2021. We are actually making an announcement at NADA for the dealers that are meeting with us. We have added a new partner. And if you meet with us, you will hear about that new partner. It is exciting news. So set up an appointment with us. You'll be a part of the 21K challenge, as we mentioned, where we're going to be trying to raise $21,000 for disabled American veterans. Matt, any final words?
Absolutely. I loved everything that Steve said. I loved his talk about what I really gathered was the efficiency. I loved his talk about sticky and those pictures and just being personal. So I really enjoyed that conversation. I hope the people who watched in, they learned something too. Remember how we talked about earlier, Carrie, talking about sharing? If you got something from this, even though it's no longer live, share it with your folks so they can see this as well. And oh my gosh, I do wish that we were live in person. I want to give Steve a hug. I want some gumbo.
I know. He is such a great guy. And I think he's brought such a new angle to automotive. That's why it's good to have, people who've been in the business a long time and newcomers too, because there's fresh ideas that are being brought to automotive. So Matt, in terms of future shows, what does the rest of the week look like?
Oh my gosh. Tomorrow we have Big Bad Glenn Pash. We are going to be talking about conversational commerce with Glenn Pash tomorrow. On Thursday, we have Lisette Gohl, who is the head of automotive retail for Google. And we are going to be talking about what digital retailing means in this new world and new shopper behaviors. On Friday, we are going to announce the winners of the 21K challenge, the dealerships that have been selected for the $2,500 donation to the charity of their choice, along with very, very, very special guests, Corey and Craig Remsburg. And everybody knows Corey and Craig Remsburg.
Yeah, Corey Remsburg he's our spokesperson for Driven to Drive, our program that gives vehicles to disabled veterans. So we're excited to have him. He's an American hero as well.
He's an American hero. And we've got from DAV, we have David Riley, who is a past national commander of DAV. And it's just going to be an absolute fantastic show. So Carrie, did I win your accompaniment for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday shows? I'm asking.
I will be back.
Okay.
I will be back. Well, this was fun, Matt, and as close as we can get to being at NADA, and I look forward to be back tomorrow.
All right, I will see you tomorrow. Different time. I think we connect tomorrow at 11 o'clock, but Pacific. I will see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific time.
All
Bye,
right.
guys. Thank you for sticking around.
See you later.